Alright guys, this is the final review for the final exam for Bio 246, Introduction to Microbiology. I know you all are excited. It's a big deal. You guys have successfully navigated through this course and you're at the final stop. Just a few things to start it off. Like always, make sure you bring either a blue or a green Scantron to the exam. A little tip that the exam is not at noon. Please remember this. The exam is on Thursday, December 15th at 10:30 a.m. Let me just put on my glasses to make sure I'm reading this right. I don't think it's going to fit under this tight hat, but we're going to make it. Alright. The exam is at 10:30 on Thursday, December 15th. So in 4 days. At 10:30. Same room. Just make sure not noon. 10:30. The exam is going to be 65 new material, 35% old material. For the old material, go over your old exams. That's going to be big ticket item. Go over your old exams. Go over my old review. You can find them all under Learning Assistant Content tab on Blackboard, as well as when you click on the first video, my other one should pop up on the sidebar next to it in related videos. So shall this one, hopefully, if YouTube works with me tonight. Also, go over the old PowerPoints. There's a bunch of PowerPoints, so don't not go over them. So make sure you go over them, but don't thoroughly go over them, because for the old material, you know this stuff. You know it. You might not think you do, but if you go over it a little bit, have a refresher, you know it. For the new material, please go over the PowerPoints. But first, let's just go over the old material. I did meet with Dr. Kokash, so I know exactly what to tell you guys on this video and tell you what to stress for the old material, which is 35% of the final exam. She wanted me to reiterate, study your old exams. Hopefully by now you picked them up. This is the big thing she was stressing all semester. Pick up your old exams. If you don't have your old exams, I don't know what to tell you. It's a big part. It's the old exams. So hopefully everybody watching this video and everybody taking the exam on Thursday at 10:30, I hope you have your old exams and you're studying them. Some of the things to know, please fix your old mistakes. If you have your exam in front of you and you made simple mistakes or you've got an answer wrong, please, Dr. Kokash has put the actual answer key to the exam. Please go over it, correct any mistakes, and understand why you got it wrong the first time. So if it's on the final exam, you will not get it wrong the second time. Some big ticket items, just an overall general view of what you should know for the material. Prokaryotes, eukaryotes. Know it inside and out. Remember, eukaryotes, they have the nucleus, they have membrane-bound organelles. Prokaryotes do not have a nucleus, do not have membrane-bound organelles. Know if a bacteria is involved, which one a bacteria is, know which one an animal is. Please know that. Also know gram-positive, gram-negative. Within your notes for these certain chapters, which were near the beginning of the class and on your first exam, there's good charts that go over the difference between what a prokaryote eukaryote is and what a gram-positive and gram-negative is. Know each of the differences. Any of the differences can pop up. Those are pretty good questions when you're going over old material for a cumulative exam, because they're information that you should already know and is at the forefront of microbiology itself. Also know the definitions of transcription, translation, transformation, transduction, conjugation. For those, of course, know the common definition of those. Know which one of those uses a sex pilus to transfer. Know which one just picks up naked bacteria that's sitting out there. Or naked DNA, sorry, naked DNA. know which one is which. So of course, go back over your old notes, go back over your old exams, and that should be there. Know the difference between aerobic, anaerobic, fermentation, just the general information. Don't stress about the details, as in don't stress over that section. Just know the general information and the general tidbits about those. Know which one is good in oxygen areas. Know which one's good without oxygen. Know the process of fermentation. Know those. Of course, brush up on vehicle transmission, direct transmission, and vector transmission. A good thing to go over for that section of material for the old exam is concept map. I believe it was 5, where you did the tree and it branched off, and you had to label which one was contact, direct, and vector, and you had to put the different, if it was airborne, foodborne. Go over that. I believe it was concept map 5. So go over that information. That's a good tidbit of information to know for that section for the old exam. Also, it was on exam 3. Go over that information on exam 3. As you can see, most of the general information we want you to know for the final exam showed up on the old exams. That in hindsight, look over your old exams. Please know how viruses replicate. Just the main cycle, the 6 steps within the main cycle. Know that. I believe that was exam 2. I believe that was exam 2. So go over the exam 2. Also, I did a big section of that on the review for that section. So please go back, watch my old video. If you don't want to watch the full video, I understand. Just go to the section where you find it on YouTube and listen to me go over it. I did a good step-by-step process of the virus replication cycle. Know the difference between lytic and lysogenic. Know which one kills, which one doesn't. Just know the general information between lytic and lysogenic. Know the 5 classes of antibodies. IgA, IgD, IgM, IgG, IgE. You don't have to go into details on percentages or the shape. Just know the general information about them, what it does, where it's located. Just know good information about that, where they're found. And like I said, you don't need to know the shapes or percentages for the 5 different classes of antibodies. Now, that's all for the old material. I'm not saying that's all that's not going to show up. That's why me and Dr. Kokesh want to reiterate, please go over your old exams that you took for this class and fix any mistakes that you made on that exam, and go onto Blackboard and of course find the correct answer and understand why the answer you chose was wrong and why the answer on the key is correct. For the new material, which is 65% of the final exam, Dr. Kokesh did this nice little review. It is 3 pages long, and it's what you're going to need to know for the 65% of the final exam. You're going to have to know the name of the microbe. You're going to have to know the characteristics. Just right off the bat, malaria. Characteristic of malaria is that it's a protozoan and that it's eukaryotic. The characteristics like that. You're going to have to know the mode of transmission. You're also going to have to know the vaccine. And that we all know that malaria, Lyme disease, and syphilis do not have a vaccine, and that the Black Death, or the Black Plague, or the microbe named Yersinia, we all know that that one does have a vaccine, but it is no longer used within the USA. So stuff like that. So if you go on to the review that is provided, it's got good lists of. It first starts off with, of course, the vaccines, which is a big important part of the final exam. So let's see. She did it into 3 different categories: killed, attenuated live, and subunit. Some of the ones that you're going to know for killed, any of these could pop up on the final exam. So you have to know these inside and out. That's why I'm posting this video tonight. So you guys have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to replay this video to write all of these down and break them into sections: vaccines, modes of transmission, microbe name, and the microbe name, the symptoms, all that stuff. Write it down a million times. Go grab a notebook, split it up into those sections: vaccines, microbe name, vehicle transmission, and characteristics, and just write it over and over and over and over and over again. That's the best thing for this final exam, because not only do you have to remember, of course, the old 35%, but now you have to memorize this new 65%. So that's the best way to do it. I would not recommend writing it on the computer, only because, based off my personal opinion, plus what many actual research and experiments have been done on this, it proves that writing on a computer does not benefit as much as handwriting it does. I used to rely on my computer a lot throughout school, and I did fine. I did well. But when I went to handwriting my notes, even if I did them on the computer in class, I went back into my dorm and now home, and I handwrote all my notes. Just because it helps memorizing it. And of course, the saying is, if you write it 3 times or say it 3 times, you're going to memorize it. So for this review, like I said, she split the first section of vaccines into killed, attenuated, live, and subunit. Know each of them. So know for killed, just some quick examples are rabies, oral cholera, hepatitis A, injected influenza, and of course bubonic plague, which we all know the vaccine for that. And that could be a question. What vaccine is no longer used in the USA, but is used in other countries? Bubonic plague. To some attenuated live that you might know, MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, oral fecal, the oral typhoid fever, excuse me, and of course the BGC vaccine, which is of course for tuberculosis. And then we have some subunit. Some big ones to know for this is of course hepatitis B, anthrax, pertussis, and tetanus, toxoid. And then she goes into modes of transmission, which the different categories you can have for modes of transmission, of course, is insect vector, animal vector, and then of course oral fecal vector. Respiratory route, and then of course direct contact. Of course, for modes of transmission for insect vector, you have the common ones you're always going to have: Lyme disease, which of course is mostly related to ticks. Then we're going to have bubonic plague, which is mainly for me located with rats, but it can also be done with fleas. Malaria, which of course is the mosquito, and Rocky Mountain fever, which is also the tick. Then when you have the animal vector, this is where I consider it to be rats, because of course we all know that rats is not an insect. So when it comes to insect, we're going to of course associate it with fleas. But where I mainly associate it with is with the animal vector, and that would be rats. We can also do it for rabies. Of course, we all know that different animals can get affected with rabies and transfer them to either other animals or humans, as well as anthrax with cattle. Of course, the oral fecal route, the main one is cholera. That's the one I always think of, but there is a few others: traveler's diarrhea, typhoid fever, and polio. Then we have respiratory route, which we all know can be many different things, as the common cold, meningitis, rubella, cold sores, which that's a crazy one, pulmonary plague, leprosy, tuberculosis, pharyngitis, which we all know pharyngitis is strep throat. Then we have sexual transmission, which is of course hepatitis B, C, and D. Remember that for the hepatitises, there's A, B, C, D, and E. And the only ones for sexual transmission is B, C, D. Hepatitis A and E are the oral fecal matter route. So you have to remember that. There's 5 different types. I'll reiterate. There's 5 different types of hepatitis. A, B, C, D, E. Easy to remember, right? Sorry. Remember, B, C, D, sexual transmission. You can get those from sexual contact. And, of course, bodily fluid transmission during sexual contact. A, E is oral fecal matter route. Then, of course, there's blood, which also can be transmitted by B, C. So, going over the entire hepatitis, let me just reiterate. You can make this into a chart when I say it, and you can go over it a million times. Oral fecal matter route. hepatitis A, E. Sexual transmission route, hepatitis B, C, D. Blood route, B, C. Of course, also blood is HIV and Ebola. And then we have mother to child mode of transmission, which can be a couple different things. It can be rubella, hepatitis B, HIV, syphilis, herpes, gonorrhea. So you see hepatitis is mixed throughout many different modes of transmission. It'd be good to know what hepatitis is within each mode of transmission. And then for the last direct contact, we all know tetanus, step on a dirty nail, impetigo, warts, staph skin infections, leprosy, and then we can have dermatophytis, which is tinea. And just know that that is the fungal infection that can be transmitted through, of course, direct contact is the only one. The symptoms, just know a couple symptoms of the diseases. So when it comes to measles, you get the spots. Tetanus, you get lockjaw. For rabies, you get salivation and hydrophobia. For syphilis, you get rashes, of course, on the palms and the soles. And Rocky Mountain spotted fever, you also get the rashes on the hands and soles of your feet. Remember, Gumas is tetany syphilis. And then, where's the other? And then non-painful cancre is primary syphilis. So that's another thing. Along with the hepatitis, of course, A, B, C, D, E, you have to know the different tiers of syphilis, primary, secondary, and tertiary, and what is a symptom of each disease. So just to reiterate, primary is, of course, the non-painful cancre. The secondary syphilis is, of course, the rash on your palms and the soles of your feet. And tertiary is the gummas. Some other different symptoms are, of course, rice watery stools for cholera, flaccid paralysis for, of course, botulism, and let's see. Oh, and a bullseye's rash, of course, for Lyme disease. Mainly wherever a tick is located, you will find a bullseye rash if you do have Lyme disease. And a few of the questions that she wants you to know, of course, she put at the bottom of the review. The difference between, of course, primary, secondary, and tertiary syphilis, as I mentioned earlier. Second one, compare and contrast the differences between the hepatitis viruses A, B, C, D, E. Know which one has a chronic stage and which one has an acute stage. That's going to be big important. What viruses are associated with human cancers? Got to know that one. What are antigenic and antigenic shift and antigenic drift in influenza? And the big one is, what do these mutations cause in the population? So you have to study the structure of influenza itself. You have to know what is good for H and N, what they do, what they are, know what the difference is. And another one is, what is the difference between adult botulism and infant botulism, which we all know for the adult botulism is the profound toxin, and then of course for the infant botulism it's microbe and endospores. So that could be another question that pops up. What's the difference between adult botulism and infant botulism? And like I just said, the adult botulism is the profound toxin, and for the infant botulism it is the microbes and the endospores. A couple other ones that she wanted us to know is traveler's diarrhea is caused by E. coli. A common UTI is, of course, caused by E. coli. She wants you guys to know what are the two differences that occur by ingestion of the profound toxin in food. Of course, like I just mentioned, is the adult botulism, as well as the Staphylococcus aureus food poisoning. Also know when it comes to E. coli, you get bloody diarrhea. It has complications that could damage the kidneys, and you get hemolytic chronic syndrome. Oh, sorry, I don't know what I was reading there. It's hemolytic uronic syndrome, not chronic. Sorry, I was reading something else there. So this is a pretty good review when it comes to the 65%. This is what the review is. Please go over it. It's a very good, as you guys just noticed, there's a lot of different diseases that were thrown at you this last half after the third exam. It was a lot thrown at you. So this is a very good review. It categorizes each section. It lets you know what you need to know. The only thing that's not on here is the microbe name and of course the characteristics of the microbe. Those are all in the PowerPoints, as well as some of the main ones were on the Concept Map 6 that you recently just turned in and got handed back on Thursday. Go over that as well. That's good. Some of the ones that were missed could possibly show up on your final exam. Biggest one being malaria. There's a lot of complications to the characteristic. The major one that you need to know is that it is a protozoan and that is eukaryotic. Another big one was, of course, the vaccines for Lyme disease, malaria, and syphilis. There was a lot of different things brought up. Just know that there is no vaccine for those three. Also know that bubonic plague also has a vaccine, but it's not used in the U.S. So that question could be thrown at you many different ways. It could just be one of the ways. It could be true or false. Does the bubonic plague have a vaccine that is no longer used in the USA? Of course, that's true. It could be, does the bubonic plague does not have a vaccine at all in any country? That's, of course, it's false because it is used in still some countries. It is no longer used here. Know the other characteristics for some of the ones: double-stranded DNA, single-stranded DNA. Is it gram-negative, gram-positive? Is it bacillus? Is it cocci? You have to just know the simple characteristics for each of all of these diseases, unfortunately. Even though some of these were just quickly glossed over, know it, because they can be thrown. A lot of the ones most likely will come from your concept map, so of course study that. That's all there really is, guys. The final exam is really, up to you. Dr. Gogash has given you all the information that she can possibly give you for this final exam. Just some of the main important points for this video that we want to stress to you going into your exam on Thursday. For one, it is 100 questions, so it's going to be a pretty lengthy exam, but you have more time period during this final exam sit-in than you do during a normal, of course, exam, because it is based off a final exam schedule. That being said, you do get longer time, but you do have to know that the start time for the final exam is at 10:30, not 12. If you come in at 12, I'm sorry. So please know that the exam does start Thursday, December 15th at 10:30 a.m. Same place, same room. Just be there an hour and 30 minutes before you usually do. Be there at 10:30. Blue or green Scantron. Look over, of course, my previous videos that I posted. Can be found on, like I said, the Learning Assistant content page on Blackboard. Also can be found on clicking one of the videos, and this video, along with my previous 3, should pop up on the related video site on YouTube. Study your old exams. Biggest thing for the 35% for the old material, because this is a cumulative exam. Please remember, cumulative exam. 35% coming from the previous chapters and the previous exams. Study your exams. Go over my reviews. Go over the review sheets that Dr. Gogash gave you before each exam. But yeah, just go over them. Go over big points, your concept maps. Especially go over 5, which is a good one for, of course, your vector transmission, direct transmission, all that. Go over concept map 6. That's a big one for this new material for the 65%. Please know, for the 65%, know this list. This is a good list to go off of when you're going about your 65% new material for this final exam. Name of the microbe. Characteristic. Like I mentioned, double-stranded DNA is an RNA, or single-stranded DNA is a gram-positive cocci, is a gram-negative. Is it a protozoan and a eukaryotic, which we all know is now malaria. The modes of transmission, is it respiratory, oral, fecal, direct? Know where each of the 5 hepatitis A, B, C, D, E stand. Then, of course, know some of the symptoms. Know primary, secondary, and tertiary symptoms for syphilis. Know some of the other ones, like bullseye rash for Lyme disease. Also, know the vaccines. Know that, of course, know them all, but know that malaria, Lyme disease, syphilis do not have vaccine. And, of course, bubonic plague is unique because it's no longer used in the USA, but it is used in other countries. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for you. Study hard. Study your exams. Study the PowerPoints. Study this review sheet. Study everything you got. You're at the final stretch. Don't give up now. Thursday, it seems like a long time, but it's not. So study, study, study. Come in strong. Finish strong. And good luck, everybody. And me and Dr. Kokash will see you at 10:30 a.m. Same room, Thursday, December 15th for your final exam. See you guys.